It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight. And she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone. And when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Good morning, K-Man. Happy Monday. How is everybody doing this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous Monday morning? Yesterday, I saw a little bit of breeze when I went outside, and I just took in some of the sunshine and breeze in my face and thought to myself, oh, what a beautiful place to live. Are we not incredibly fortunate to be alive and right here in the absolutely gorgeous Cayman Islands? Well, the war continues. Headlines this morning: people on flights to nowhere, they say, from the UK as drone strikes causes another Dubai shutdown. Yikes, what a mess. All I can tell you is, be careful now of where you travel, because apparently people are still flying into Dubai. So thousands of United Emirates passengers suffer flights to nowhere from the UK because drones cause another Dubai airport shutdown. So another Iranian drone has strike has shut down Dubai's main airport, DXB. So now these people are on planes to nowhere. So I don't know exactly where they're going to land, but they're not landing at the Dubai airport. So this morning at about 4 a.m. local time, Dubai airports posted on X, formerly Twitter, that flights at DXB were temporarily suspended as a precautionary measure to ensure the safety of all passengers and staff. And it said to contact your airlines for the latest flight details. So apparently there were 6 flights who were already en route. Can you imagine? Oh my God. To Dubai when news of the closure emerged. One flight from Heathrow, that was flight EK30, diverted to Dubai World Central. the second airport serving the metropolis, and 2 flights, one from Gatwick and Manchester and Edinburgh, turned around and flew back to their starting point. So thankfully they were able to get back. No, sir. Another one spent 11 hours airborne before returning to the Scottish capital. I guess they got a lot of fuel on these planes. And it had taken off from Edinburgh shortly after 8 p.m. and had reached Egypt before the crew were ordered to return to the starting point. And then there was some people on the Sunday night Emirates flight from London to Dubai, and they encountered a similar 11-hour flight that failed to reach UAE. And it was close to Dubai, but was turned back and ended up in Vienna, 8:30 Monday morning local time. So what I would suggest is British travelers find another route that doesn't take you anywhere near that area of the world right now, which includes Dubai. Because despite what the president of the United States has said, there is no settling of this war anytime soon, looks like. He claims that, the the Iranian government that's in now is going to settle this with him. And they have said absolutely not. They're not playing on his terms. They said they will decide when the war ends, and it's not going to be anytime soon. So now he's also demanding, this has been trending from yesterday, he is demanding 7 nations send warships or face the consequences. He is asking his so-called allies to send warships there to assist with the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. And essentially, they have said, no, but thanks anyway. It's crazy because he has single-handedly destroyed relationships with a lot of his allies, threatening them with tariffs and all sorts of ridiculous behavior. Destroyed the relationship with NATO because the US thought that they could do stuff on their own. So here they are, practically on their own. Well, they've got Israel by their side. And that's such a conundrum. But there you go. The Israelis are in support of this hot mess of a situation. They're the reason why the US is there. And now other people that he's calling on, China, the UK, and Japan included in that list, have said they are not getting directly involved. They're not sending any ships to assist with this foolishness. So, interestingly enough, I think the Iranian government has actually said that those countries and, any country that's not directly involved in the war, they will allow their ships to pass through. And of course, this is going to bring us to today's first topic, where we're going to talk about tackling the viral WhatsApp rumor as it relates to the fuel situation. So good morning. Lots happening all over the world. Let me just send out the links to everyone. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and cmrtv.com. Of course, you can always find us there on the website if all else fails. We are on our backup YouTube channel at the moment. So go and check that out. I've sent up the links, and I suggest you just follow it just in case, because sometimes we have to use it. So yes, so the backup YouTube channel is, let me give you what the name of the channel is. It's very close to the regular channel, but it's basically, give me 1 second here. Let me see. Let me see what it's called. Right. So, oops. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I got some feedback here. Where's that feedback coming from? Oh, my apologies. It opened up a Facebook page. So it is called at Cayman Mall Road, Cayman. So that's the Facebook the YouTube backup channel at Cayman Mall Road, Cayman. Yeah, it opened up the YouTube app. That's where that was coming from. All right, so let's get it. Of course, all of these things have a direct impact on us, so we want to pay particular attention. There were lots of people yesterday commenting on the oil situation. So there's this viral WhatsApp rumor that was claiming that fuel was going to be jumping to $7 a gallon Monday morning. That's today. And, quite frankly, we think it's coming regardless, but it's not here yet. So there's no need to panic. And this type of panic buying is crazy because the fuel companies say, at least one fuel company is like, it doesn't really help them, to be honest. Whenever people panic buy, because they have the most competitive pricing on island, but panic buying forces people to normally go close to home and purchase, as opposed to like, okay, let me be sensible and go to the gas station that has the best pricing. So it's not true. And one observer said that last year there was something else that was going on, and a similar or the same message actually was being sent out. So they feel like this is a reformulated WhatsApp message. So it's pretty wild. Yeah. We live in a space where sometimes it's very, very challenging to keep up with these messages and to dispel them as quickly as the rumors spread. It's always easier to start a rumor than to stop a rumor. I can tell you that. So lots of people will share it. I want to thank the people who actually reach out to me and say, hey, Sandy, is this true? Because, they know that CMR is going to get to the bottom of it. And we're going to figure out what's actually going on. So immediately as I received it, I said, okay, I don't know if this is true. I mean, I kind of didn't feel like it was, but I said, let me verify. And I started contacting official sources. Now, for a story like this, official sources include, to be clear, owners and PR managers of gas companies. It includes sources at ERCO who would know what's coming down the pipeline. And there's an actual process. And I think it's important for people to understand how ERCO, who we've always called off-reg, by the way, how they actually regulate the gas industry. Because this, you could only believe this if you didn't think or understand how the regulatory agency operates. And that's okay. I mean, I can't blame you for always not knowing, but there is a bit of an education process that I do feel is necessary, so that when you see these rumors, you can go, oh, that can't happen quite like that in any event. In the US, in certain states, it's gone over $8 already. So, it's very, very likely that we will be pushing some higher numbers in due course. But I'm thinking it's going to be hitting us during the summer. And so you know what that means. The one bill that you're going to probably feel more than the gas station is probably your CUC bill, to be honest. So all I can do is tell you all to take necessary steps now. Start to service those air conditioning units. If you got some that need to be replaced because they're no longer efficient, get it done. Because I know y'all gonna be complaining during the summer. And there are some things that you can do beforehand. Insulation, tinted windows. I mean, do it all, folks. Get it all done. Okay? So this WhatsApp message says gas is going up on Monday to $7.00, not even a straight $7 per gallon. And so you need to take your car to get it tonight or tomorrow. Even the message is making sense, because if it was going up for tomorrow, why would the message tell you to go tonight or tomorrow? Wouldn't it be too late tomorrow, which would have been today? You got to pick sense from nonsense. When I saw this message, not for nothing, but I saw the message and I thought, is this from Sherry Ann's group again? Because boy, she can send out some foolishness when she's ready. No cross-checking, no verification, don't care. And so I kind of got that vibe, encouraging people to panic buy, and there really is no need for it. Ironically, I filled up on Saturday because, well, I saw the light come on. So I was like, oops, time to get gas. Are you like me, where you don't even pay attention to the gas meter until it's on empty? And then it's like, oh, yes, I need to be able to get gas in order to operate this car, huh? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's me. I'm that person. I'm that person who just drives and drives and drives until I see it come on. And then I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. All right. So it's fear mongering, panic buying, and not really encouraged to have a run on the gas stations at this time. Recycled message that, is utilized anytime there's a world event that will definitely impact gas prices. So one person said that you do not need to panic buy gas today because of this message. It's not based on current pricing decisions. ERCO has said that they wanted to address the message circulating, which was absolutely false. Big shout out to the CEO of ERCO, who was very quick to respond with a statement that was sent to media, as well as a video message where he basically said, listen, calm down, folks. Have a listen.
Good afternoon. We wish to address a message currently circulating alleging that fuel prices will increase dramatically to $7 per gallon tomorrow, and consequently urging motorists to rush to filling stations. That information is not accurate and therefore is misleading. While we anticipate increases in fuel prices in the near future, there is currently no indication of such a sudden or drastic increase of that magnitude in the immediate term. Current local fuel prices are based on the cost of product already purchased and in supply in the country. While prices have been steadily increasing for several months, deliveries received last week were purchased prior to the latest Middle East conflict escalations, so should not have any drastic impact on consumer fuel costs. Changes in global oil prices typically take time to affect local pump prices, and any adjustment would normally occur gradually as new shipments enter the supply chain, not overnight. We continue to closely monitor fuel prices across all three islands and will take regulatory action if any increases appear unjustified. So, in other words, if any operator increases the prices without cause, we will be knocking at their doors to investigate. There is no current fuel shortage. The stations remain adequately stocked. Consumers are therefore encouraged to rely on official information sources and to avoid panic buying. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. That's Mr. Sanjay Miles with that message. Nice, calm message telling y'all to relax, and explaining in brief the process. If you want more details on how this actually works, by all means, we put up a really good article, I must say. since I wrote it myself. But it goes into a lot of details about how this works. So what I will say is, we spoke to the fuel companies, and they certainly explained from their perspective how all of this works. And, it's based on the market. So the one bit of misinformation that I did see circulating, which I thought was interesting, was in relation to, and I saw a few people posting this on social media. They're like, doesn't Cayman buy gas from the US? So people think that because we're not purchasing gas from that side of the world, that this shouldn't impact us. Well, it kind of doesn't make any sense. When I saw the question, I was like, wait a minute. Why would that be logical? Even if you don't understand the flow of how gas prices are determined, how is that logical when prices themselves in the US are increasing? But go ahead and read the article, because it really is dependent on the market, right? So, they purchase fuel, and there's an actual industry around this whole thing that is quite, you often hear CUC come on here and say that sometimes when they purchase it, sometimes the markets are a bit speculative in terms of future events and so on. But the prices are driven by these global benchmarks over time. And so they watch those very, very closely. Someone made reference to the WTI oil index. And these are experts in the industry. So when you hear them using these technical terms, that actually means something. So they said about 80 to 90% of the movement in price you see down here is to do directly with the WTI oil index. And that figure rises further when US gas futures are also considered. So if you, they said that basically they can predict 90% of the movement just by using the WTI and reformulated gasoline index. So this is all the technical stuff, like how prices come about. So despite what people think, which is, it doesn't matter if we're not, because we're getting, this person said, but does Cayman fuel come from the Middle East? The issue there is not that whether it comes from the Middle East or not, it's that worldwide prices are tied together when it comes to this WTI world index and gasoline futures. So that's the technical stuff that really impacts the price of oil. Now, it is true that the US has a good amount of oil themselves. And in fact, only 20% of the world's oil actually goes through the strait there. But that 20% is still a significant amount. And so, yes, that will impact. And there's other things that are happening that's actually impacting the price of fuel as well, outside of just that 20%. So war, although last week the president of the United States was saying that this is good for them, because good for them being the Americans, because they actually sell oil. And so he said, oh, this is great because we sell oil and now we're going to make a ton of money. I don't know who, I would hate to be Trump's advisor that has to tell this man how to make sense, because he routinely manages to shoot himself in the foot on a regular basis. I mean, wow. Seriously? That's the message that you want to tell Americans right now? That, oh, don't worry about it. You're making the government rich because we're in the oil business. And that's a good thing. Although we've just cut your Medicaid, medical benefits, we've cut SNAP benefits and all this kind of mess. But at the same time, we have an agency out there wasting hundreds of millions of dollars buying lobster tails and other stuff and a piano for staff because they had excess money. And if they don't spend it, they'll lose it out of their budget. But the American people must be the ones who sacrifice. I think there's something wrong when it's the wrong people who are always making the sacrifice for the country to operate. Did you guys see the story this weekend trending about the TSA agents having to live in their cars and stuff because of all of the budget cuts that have not been really good? And so right now they're not even getting paid, so they can't afford rent. And some of them are being forced to live in vehicles. My gosh. What a hot mess. Anyway, we'll continue to monitor this situation. I just wanted to sort of reinforce this morning that there is no shortage of fuel. The stations remain adequately supplied and the pricing will go up, but it's not going to be quite a significant jump as that overnight. And what I understand is that these companies, when a shipment comes in, so I think that there was one in on Friday that must have offloaded, that they actually need to supply proof to Offreg of what they would have paid for that fuel, right? And then as a result, what the markup is going to be and what they'll be charging at the pumps. So someone did confirm that this tanker called Silver Ahiba left port on Friday. And they said, listen, we know that tanker was here. They didn't know exactly which supplier that tanker was here for, but they did say that the thing is, they don't even know when that fuel for the tanker was purchased. It would be the person bringing it in that would have those details. And also what products were on board, whether it was like a shared charter or just from one of the suppliers. And so all of those details, these oil companies have to provide Offreg or ERCO now, their proper name. That has to be provided to them in order for them to justify what they're going to be charging at the tanks. So, they have a bill of lading, they have receipts, they have all this stuff that they have to produce evidence of. All right. So, again, that person who is in the business said any manner of increases are possible, but it should not be that high for regular gas anyway. Like they said, no, that sounds ridiculous. All righty. So we're probably going to be at the $6 mark, a little bit over $6. And right now they're expecting increases along the lines of 50 to 60 cents, given what the last shipped was actually priced at. I also was told reliably that Rubus uses the FIFO formula, not FOFO, but the FIFO, which is first in, first out. So they tend to move faster with new prices. First in, first out. Interesting. And then Sol uses a blended average. So their new higher cost product is mixed with older, cheaper stock, which tends to soften the jump. So this is what industry experts told us yesterday when we reached out to them. And yeah, that's where we are. All right. Okay, so thank you so much. I think we were able to get the word out there pretty quickly to correct that statement. There were some people who were really confused and they were posting it on social media. I saw a few people posting it on Facebook, Instagram. One of the companies did send out, I think somebody sent me an IG post where they were demonstrating that, where they were demonstrating that my apologies. There we go. What was I saying? Demonstrating who, what, when, where? Oh, yes. Where they were demonstrating that they were concerned that this rumor may have been believed by a lot of people. So once we got the confirmation, there's one other one that's in circulation as well. Let me play this one and let you guys know that this one is also not from any regulatory agency. I haven't listened to this one, so let's listen to it together to see exactly what it says. It's easy for people to make these little video clips now and put stuff up. It doesn't mean that it's reliable or that it's coming from a legit source, but let's see what this one says together. So, oh, that's Caymanian Times. Okay. I don't know where this is coming from. But what I can tell you is Caymanian Times actually put this out. Huh. Guess I'm surprised at that, but that one is not official either. So it doesn't have any audio, but it's like a screenshot that is showing prices over $7. And I don't know where Caymanian Times got that from either. No clue. So it's like a graph, and then it's showing pricing for Savannah Rubus and a few others over $7. But I don't know where they got that from. I don't know where the graph comes from. It just says CaymanianTimes.ky. So, but we know that actually isn't true. I think that ERCO, if you go to their website, you will actually see on the website that there is a index of current pricing. So there's a tab for fuel pricing. And that says as of Monday, the 16th. So let me show you this, because this is actually what's accurate, not what Caymanian Times is sending out. So again, you got to know the source of your information. So ERCO, aka OffReg, goes to great lengths to provide you with current pricing. And here it is here. So this is the current pricing, nowhere near what that image just showed you of some stations being over $7. So they have every single location, every gas station, including the sister islands. There's the Village Square, Little Cayman, West Bay, Georgetown, North Side. All the districts are here. And this is the pricing that they have for the different types of fuel, self-serve, full serve, and so on. All right, starting with the Four Winds and West Bay, Hell Station, and then you got a bunch of Town stations and so on. All right. So every single morning you send me a message saying you can't get me, nothing changes. What? Same as always. Why do I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day with this person? I've sent you the links that get recycled every day, and every morning you say the same thing. Use these same links. You got to stop sending me this message now. I feel like you're that spouse that will never change, never get any better. Doing the same thing over and over again. Come on, folks. Work with me here, honey child. Work with me. All right, let's talk about the situation in Honduras. Let's read some of your messages before we move on. Good morning, Miss Mitzi. How you doing, honey child? Beautiful family picture, by the way. Gorgeous family. Strong Wilt is in the house. Good morning to you. Patricia Blake is here. Charlie Brown, good morning. Shaka Zulu joining us. Says morning to the CMR TV fam. Yes, good morning. Wee, how you doing, honey child? Happy Monday, Shaka. Marshall joining us from North Carolina. Bradley Newman. Shout out to Bradley Newman, he says. Okay, Bradley. Abby, the beautiful Abby is here. Abby, people want to know if that's like your real picture or if that's some AI photo, because they're like, ooh, Abby's low-key beautiful. Damaris, good morning to you. Siobhan is in the house. Siobhan Stewart, thank you. And she spells her Siobhan different. Shevonne. There's a couple of Siobhans who spell Shyvon. Nope, she's different. YouTube King says no politics. Wouldn't that be wonderful if you could live in a world where there was no politics, but politics affect our everyday lives. So I don't know what you're talking about. That's life. Trust and believe. Fence 61684 says, great job, President Donald Trump and the armed forces. You will live to eat your words, Fence. Trust and believe. If you're not feeling it yet, you will. Anyway, the NATO allies have rejected his demands for help to open the Strait of Hormuz. He says they have said, no, thank you. This is the same man who's had more than enough to say about NATO, about how ineffective they are, and NATO doesn't work, and oh, we hate NATO, and blah, blah, blah. So the fact that he would be now asking for NATO's help is kind of low-key crazy. So, yeah. Morning, Robert. Olivia is here. Good morning, Abby. Barbara G in the house. Hello, Barbara. Johan says, who's going to get blazed up today? Hi, Johan. Island Pearl, Aliano, AJ's here for it. Saying good morning, beautiful people. Beautiful Miss Sue is here. Sherry Ann, she actually spells it, I know you have Cherry Ann, but she spells it with an S. So it's SHERRYANN. But anyway, Strong Will says Sherry Ann needs to go look a life. She have too much waste time for a big grown woman. Lord have mercy. The orange clown is just a big expletive puppet. Aliano says, where's the money going? Oh, that's right. Into backdoor deals, robbing the good American people. John LaRue says, use a microfiber cloth for your glasses. John LaRue, I'm glad you're paying attention. He saw me take out a new one. This one, actually, I really, really love. I've been using this cleanser for years. But yes, this is from a company called EliteTechGear.com. And these are excellent quality microfiber cleaning cloth. And it says, if you don't love it, we'll take it back at our expense without any questions whatsoever. So I exclusively use these for like my camera lenses, my phone lenses, and my glasses. So yes, I have a whole stash of them. I buy them by the packs. And you're supposed to only hand wash these, no detergent or bleach, and air dry only. But that's exactly what I got. I took out a new one this morning for my glasses at the desk. And they feel so good. Really good quality. But thank you so much. Yeah, I always, glasses always get scratched, I feel like, no matter what you do. But I figure if I use a microfiber cloth, it does help. See the little products that make your life better. They're a little thing right there. Elite Tech Gear. Check them out, I guess. Amazon, of course. Morning to the beautiful Lavana, Ms. Gina. Emma says, thank you for supporting Iran. Well, I wouldn't quite go that clear. I mean, I'm not really supporting the Iranian government. We know that their government has committed atrocious acts against its own people, but that also does not mean that I believe that what the U.S. is doing is going to benefit anybody. Two things, you know what? It's so weird that people don't understand this concept, but two things can equally be accurate at the same time. So there are governments who are horrible towards their people. And do I think that the solution to that is the United States government to move in? No. The United States government has also, especially under this administration, but even before at times, have demonstrated they can be horrible. And they commit horrible acts against their people too. And so I think all countries have to keep an eye on governments if they really want a quote unquote democracy. I'm going to use that really, really loosely this morning. And so my comments about the US are not in support of what the Iranian government has done. Now, do they have a right to retaliate? Well, I think that was expected. No one is going to just lay down and let somebody, well, I shouldn't say no one because people here in Cayman do it all the time, where they just lay down and let people run all over them. Most sensible people don't do that. They are going to put up a fight. Morning, Andrew. So the fight is understood. And I think more importantly, because the U.S. can't give any logical reason for what this fight is even for, except to support the Israeli government, then yeah, that's a problem. So Yeah. And it's also it is also a lesson in what happens when you discard relationships or you try to use people just based on the transaction that you can get out of them, and that's it. So you would not be wrong if you describe Trump's relationship with NATO as being tense and transactional. He's repeatedly questioned the alliance value and US obligations while using threats and criticisms to push allies to spend more on defense. Right? So he's often called NATO obsolete, outdated, arguing that it was designed to deal with modern threats like terrorism, and the US carries an unfair share of the burden. That it was not designed, my apologies, to deal with modern threats, and that the US is carrying an unfair share of the burden. His rhetoric is focused on money, right? So he's talked about ally defense spending on bills owed to the US, even though the 2% of GDP target is about each country's own defense budget, not payments to Washington. Like, he's confused. Oh God, I can't continue to explain to you guys how confused this man is if you don't get it by now. But anyway, he's pushed hard for the allies to meet or exceed the 2% of GDP defense target, and even suggested raising it to 4%, singling out Germany and others for not paying their fair share. NATO officials have acknowledged that allied defense spending did increase during and after his first term, though the trend started after Russia's seizure of Crimea in 2014, before he took office. He has threatened, so he's cast doubt on the US commitment to NATO's Article 5, which is a mutual defense guarantee, saying the US should not defend allies that do not meet his spending demands. Listen carefully to what he has said. The US should not defend allies that did not meet his spending demands. So you see him on the campaign trail, and in public remarks, he suggested that he would let Russia do whatever they want to underspending allies, which NATO Secretary General and European leaders say undermines alliance security and deterrence. He is legit afraid of Russia, which, by the way, over the weekend, he actually allowed Russia he lifted some sanctions that were against Russia. And so this is shocking because, of course, he's admitting that they're so desperate to do anything to try to bring down the impact of the war in Iran, which he can't justify. He said that he's temporarily easing some sanctions on Russian oil, allowing certain previously sanctioned shipments that are already at sea to be delivered over the next month. He claims that this is a move to calm surging energy prices linked to the Iran conflict. So the Trump administration on Saturday, I think it was, issued a 30-day waiver letting countries buy Russian crude and petroleum products that were already loaded on tankers and stranded at sea under existing sanctions. So the effective window for this is going to be from mid-March to mid-April. And the authorization is limited to oil already in transit and doesn't cover new exports. But critics say that this narrow short-term step gives Moscow additional revenue and weakens the broader sanctions regime over its war in Ukraine. So it has some really serious implications here for what is happening there. Russia is actually making money. In fact, Russia is making money in this war when the US is hemorrhaging it. Let me get you the figures. And I think it was an extra 120. Let me get you the facts. They had a daily rate that they were making money. All right, so the U.S. is spending over $100 billion. No, hold on. Let me give you I'm trying to get you the daily totals. But it was something like 100 and something million per day that Russia is now going to be making extra as a result of this lifting of the sanctions. And then the U.S. is hemorrhaging money. I'll find the figure at some point, but it's crazy what's actually being spent. Let me see. I'll get you some figures. I saw it in one of the news reports, so I will get it. Roughly $900 million to about $1 billion per day. So these are the best current estimates, put the U.S. spending at about $900 million to about $1 billion per day in direct military costs, with some some days running higher than that. So Washington think tank analysts using Pentagon data pegs current daily costs of about $891.4 million. And that's mostly from expensive munitions and carrier drop deployments. And then the Pentagon briefings to Congress have said that the first 6 days cost the U.S. about $11.3 billion, with an average just under $1.9 billion per day in the initial very intense phase of the strikes. And budget forecast models expect the burn rate to cool somewhat over the early surge, stabilizing closer to 800 to 900 million per day if the war continues at the current tempo without a big ground escalation. However, okay. However, the issue with this, it's an exorbitant amount of money. I mean, I can't imagine. But the issue also is the fact that, this isn't going to be a quick war. There are analysts who analyze all this stuff, and they're talking about how it's very possible for this war to go on for quite some time, but the U.S. seems to have miscalculated a lot about the Iran situation, including the fact that maybe they thought it was going to be another Venezuela situation, which it clearly isn't. So that's kind of interesting. All right, let me just see here. Let's move on to another topic, because we have to talk about what's happening in Honduras now. I got to tell you the truth. I'm no expert in anything in the Bay Islands or Honduras. And so all I know is that a lot of people were sending in commentary in relation to election yesterday. And, basically what they're saying is election fraud, and they have some concerns about what is happening in their country. There was a tie, like a dead tie. And so I guess they were having another election to clear off that tie. And it just was like, I don't know, just a hot mess. So there are allegations of narco payoffs in that country linked to political individuals. There are allegations of, what's it called? People being paid out. There are allegations that some of these people now have Cayman status, and they are involved in fraud on the government and fraud on the people. And so there's quite a bit of concern there about that as well. So there's some guy named, he's an ex-mayor, Spurgeon Miller. They said that there was allegations of him providing weapons to citizens of his party. And so that was making the breaking news there in Guanaja, which is also called hold on, Bonacca. The same place, right? Guanaja and Bonacca. They just call it different things. So it sounds like a hot mess and then some, to be honest. I tell people we don't have time for election fraud in our own country. And I wonder what sort of things do they have in place? Like, do they have outside observers? Like, how is this able to happen in their country? I don't really know. Wow. AJ says, where's the Board of Peace, whose member countries contributed $1 billion for permanent seats? And what is their role in the absence of NATO? Oh, that was just a fraud situation, AJ. They were just paying money to be friends with Trump. Wasted $1 billion. So I know that there was lots of video footage that was going on. Apparently, they even attacked someone on social media. They're walking around with like weapons in hand. It just looks like a hot mess. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what? They even poured gas on people, is what some individuals said. So it sounds crazy. Poor mess. It just sounds like a mess. So there are people who are having some concerns about the election municipales in Guanaja. It says, vote for our candidate, Sheree Borden. Now, interestingly enough, people in the Bay Islands are very, very connected to Cayman. A lot of them are, for all intents and purposes, Caymanians. And so, yeah, it just sounds like they need to try to get this under control, especially where the violence is concerned. All right, give me 1 second. We got a caller. Got to make sure that the phone is properly connected here so we can hear them. Let me see here. Good morning, caller. Uh-oh. Try calling back, honey. Chill. Trying to pick up the phone. So let me show you some of the footage that has been coming our way. Trying to answer the phone. All right. Okay. So this is one. Yeah. So we see people here walking. Okay. Oh yeah, this is part of it where they're dragging axes, hammers, pickaxe. And they're saying that these people are, it's just a handful of people, so I don't know how much damage they're going to be doing, but anyway, they are going to be carrying out violence against the people. So one person says, on the Bay Island situation, every accusation is confession. On the comment about Mr. Miller, they also started a fire in the public schools. What a hot mess. Pretty crazy. Yay. Okay, well, I don't know what to say. Like I said, I can barely keep up with Cayman politics on this front, but it's not a good look, and I hope that they can get themselves sorted out as quickly as possible. So quite a few people with connections, obviously, to the Bay Islands are very concerned, and they have been sending us footage in relation to what was transpiring there yesterday. And yeah, it's not good. All right, we have a caller. For some reason, I feel like I'm not going to be able to hear you because I can't hear it ringing. But good morning, caller. Nope, I can't hear you. Hold on. Let me try to reconnect the phone. Sometimes it takes a minute to chip in. Hello?
Morning, Sandra. How are you?
There we go. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good in yourself.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, the situation with Honduras Guanaja is terrible. It's literally terrible. But what I want to focus on here this morning is actually Spurgeon Miller. And the reason why I'm saying that because is if you're going to pass a law that you have to be living in the Cayman Islands, a resident of the Cayman Islands for so many years before you can apply for PR or status grant, I think it should be applied across the board for everyone. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this man has never lived in the Cayman Islands, and we know that those that are how relationships or family within Guanaja should know this.
Mm-hmm.
He comes here probably once a year to visit. So my main concern is if he's being considered criminal and committing criminal acts, how is it that he has been granted any kind of documentation for the Cayman Islands? They always, when we go to
Well,
the
I
bank,
guess
they give us
let me be clear because I don't really know who Spurgeon is, but he was once a mayor in Guanaja. Is that his connection to?
Yeah, he was a mayor in Guanaja.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
that still don't give him rights to claim Cayman papers. That means that Donald Trump can come to Cayman and claim citizenship too, right or wrong?
Well, I mean, our citizenship
Okay.
isn't based on who you are. It's supposed to be a process.
Well, who's he?
Yeah,
Who's
I
Spurgeon
mean,
Miller?
exactly. I mean, I don't know.
Who's Spurgeon Miller? Okay. And he's not the first, and he'll not be the last. I know someone else within my family, and I can speak, and it's not that I'm throwing her under the bus. She has never resided in Cayman, and she claimed Cayman papers. Okay? Spurgeon Miller, everybody knows, is a criminal activist. We all know that. Those that are how relationship with people in Honduras knows this, right?
But he's
The
never,
thing is-
so to be clear, he's actually never been convicted of anything.
He's never been convicted of anything.
Okay.
The thing is that how is it that you're going to reside outside the Cayman Islands and get papers?
I mean, that I think that part is a question. Yes.
Yeah, we as a small community, we have issues here with our own people. Meaning, say, if you, Sandra, or me, Amanda, goes to the bank and put $1 in our account, they question us. If someone transfers $1 more to our account, they question us. But he can come in here, open an account, and I'm not going to throw the bank under the bus this morning, and open an account and don't question where his money is coming from. Do you know how much money the people of the Cayman Islands collected and donated when that fire burn happened in Honduras? And not one dime went to the people. And I'm pretty sure the people can call in this morning and say the truth. Do you know how much thousands of dollars the people in Texas collected and sent to him as a mayor for the people and didn't get $1? You know where that money ended up? And plenty of people don't want to talk about it, but he can't do me one thing. That money ended up here in Cayman Islands Bank. Okay? In Cayman Islands Bank. So I want to question the government, our government, that we put there, and we can move, because just like how we put them there, we can move them. Nepotism is a big thing on this island. And if we don't walk straight, they dog and eat our supper. But if people can come in here and clean papers and leave the next day, I want answers to that, because it's not right. And people that have a criminal background or people that has history of criminal activities. You know what that means? That not all police records coming out of Honduras are legit. That's what that means. Because this man, and I'm gonna say this, he didn't have a pot to piss in, and now he got big time mansion.
Yeah, let's watch her.
Big time mansion here in Cayman, in money in Cayman, right?
All right, so let's
right?
try to watch our language though. But let me ask you a question. So you're saying he does own property in Cayman?
Yes, he does.
Okay. So someone is saying, isn't there something in the law that allows you to basically buy Cayman status depending on your level of investment?
He never had $500,000 to buy it. He probably got it now with all the money that was donated to Honduras through Texas, the people in Texas and the people here in Cayman. I guess that's the money he bought his citizenship. But yeah, that is possible. That person is very correct. That person is very correct.
What a hot mess. So
Anyway,
what is the
concern
situation?
Is I don't know what really and truly the situation in Honduras is out of hand.
What are
It's
they
sad
fighting
to see
over with
what's
the
going
election?
on.
Okay, see, I'm here in a video that we're
Well,
playing
what they're
online.
fighting for, and maybe somebody more background can call in. But what I know, according to what my family has told me, is that the Nationals, which is like UDP, they won. They won fairly. The gentleman that won is an honest and clean man, right? Yes, he got some people that are behind him that are not that has a clean record, but they don't rule the governors. They're not in seat. But the lady there, Sherry Borden, is Spurgeon Miller right hand. She's just
that one lick in my head. They took.
Mm-hmm.
I can call her out this morning because if she had any decency and we grew up together, she was a person that when I went to the States, I mean, her family were considered high class or middle class, okay? And if she had any decency for herself, she would back down. But you know what they're trying to corrupt here? Corruption, because they can't give account for all the money that went missing, okay? And it's sad to say, it falls on her mother too, because they say food can only grow as good as you want it to grow if you're trained properly, right? And her mother then taught her no principles, obviously. But you know who I feel it for? Her children. Her children, because I know they're going to have to suffer bullying in the school. And it's really sad because she don't have no decency. She have no morals.
Who are we talking about? This Sherry Borden person?
Yes.
Oh.
Correct.
What a hot mess.
Because she has brought this foolishness on. Because you take your loss and you walk.
So she was running for election there in Guanaja. What's the position that she's running for?
She's running for the mayor.
This is the same mayor position. Oh, I see.
Yeah. But you see, she was his deputy mayor. Now he has been out because he knew if he had run again, the people would not elect him because they know everything that he has done. They know everything that he has done. So the people want an internal investigation. But if she gets in, she can do a lot of stuff. They don't need to bring the investigation out because it's the same party, right? The people want questions. They want to know where the money gone, where the donations gone. They want to know everything. They want transparency. They want no criminal activities on the island. If she gets in, she make people walk freely. But you know, if I was there, what would happen? I already end up Mad Road. But I end up Mad Road for my child name being called up. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. I would end up on Mad Road again. But I can tell you this, if it was me that she had called her son would be and walk in front of me and say the thing she did, I would beat her ass.
All right. Because remember the language. You're on radio.
Bonacca need to understand one thing here this morning. They need to, that's okay. I am not from there. I am from Cayman Island. But I have my family there. And if they had any sense, they would unite together and expel her from there because that's what she needs because she don't have no face to walk and face the people because she's not for the Caymanians, for the Bonaccan people. She's for her pocket. And if they had any sense, like how I said, come together as an island. Stop being colorblind because that's the biggest problem. Bonacca people, they're colorblind. It's either red or blue. I want to know, and I can say this here today, those Bonaccians that got PR and Cayman status that are going down from Cayman that actually support this bullshit.
Lord have mercy. Oh my God. You can talk and have your opinion, but you know we're live on radio. You cannot use that language on the radio, folks. Come on, Amanda. Amanda. You can't use that language.
That famous this morning, you know. I don't want to be that famous.
Well, I'm gonna have to cut you off because the language. Hello.
What I'm saying.
I need you to stop and listen to me. Listen, Amanda. Amanda.
I'm listening.
The language. We're on radio.
The people that left here.
I need you to. Hello. Stop for a second. I need you to calm down and acknowledge that you understood what I just said. We're on radio, so you can't say certain things on radio.
All right, listen,
this is not 9:30.
The people that has PR.
No, you need to say yes, Sandra. I understand before we can.
Yes. The people that has status in PR that really took the liberty and the time Because I have an employee that did it. And when she gets back here, she would hear my side because I can tell her those kind of things you don't do. You got to stand for your rights. Okay? You have to stand for your rights. Those that went down there to lend their time to this stupidity should not have to come back to the Cayman Islands and work. They should ask Sherry to take care of them because it's foolishness what they went down. And then if they had any common sense, they wouldn't have did it. Because one thing in life, I know that common sense take you very far. And obviously they don't have any.
All right. Well, leave me there, my dear. Okay.
All right, later.
All right. Oh my goodness. What is Jesus peace? We have another gentleman who says he wants to call in. You can call on the WhatsApp number 936-2626. Daniel Elvis Ebanks. I think there was a video of you where you might have gotten injured. He said he'd like to participate. 936-2626. 345-936-2626 is the telephone number. Mankind says Honduras is a third world country. And they have a fingerprinting system for years now in Cayman. What? Is that helping them, having a fingerprinting system? I'm just asking the logical question. It's one thing to have a fingerprinting system, and then there's one thing to actually have it make a difference. We don't want it just to be able to say we have a fingerprinting system. We want something that's going to be beneficial to the people. Alice Watler Hyde says Sherry Borden is responsible for this mess in Bonacca. So interestingly enough, we see videos here of people fighting in the streets. Look at this man and woman with broomsticks. Look like he's on a bike and she's ready to hit him. And I guess he's ready to hit himself. And they're having a huge discourse, looks like in the middle of the street. And they're arguing and fussing and fighting. But somebody says, while these fools are in the streets fighting, the two people who are running for the seat are actually down in, hold on, let me tell you where they say they're at now. What a mess. This person says that they are down, both politicians from both parties are chilling on Graham K while this mess was going on. So they're not worried about him. Somebody else says Mr. Miller's father was a captain in Honduras and his family owns a hotel on Guanaja. He's got a bigger pot to piss in than her. He comes from money. Okay. Ay. Yeah, what a mess. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. I would like to speak to you regarding a situation that's going on and the video is circulating. I would appreciate if you can give me a call. I do not want to be on your online. Oh, no, I'm live now. Yeah, we can't have a private conversation while I'm live. Okay. So, what a mess. Let me see. His Annie is retired from government here in Cayman. Allegations of money laundering through the church here in Cayman that Annie is a member of. He's associated with the ex-president Hernandez of Honduras and the mafia and has a lot of powerful friends, says this other person. So the election yesterday was canceled and rescheduled for another date due to insufficient security issues. A vote poll was set on fire but they out the fire. Extra police were sent to the island, but still things were out of control. Many arrests were made. Oh my gosh, this is so sad. What on earth? Well, what a situation. No, sir. These people fighting left, right, and center over politicians that I'm pretty sure don't even care about them. And quite frankly, they're not even gonna, what are they gonna do for you guys exactly? I mean, you gotta really think about what is going on here. And yeah. So lots of videos. Unfortunately, Guanaja sounds like it's a mess at the moment because of politicians. And here's another one that was posted and circulating on social media that shows the hot mess that's going on there as well. John says, who's Amanda? She's a Caymanian with family and ties to the area there in Bonacca / Guanaja. What do you say? I wonder if I should get out of here. What? They do sound a lot like Caymanians. There's very strong history, actually. With English, I understand, is their first language, but when they speak English, they sound a lot like Caymanians for sure. There's a little island off of the coast there. I forget what it's called, but that island during Hurricane Melissa, I think I've told this story before. When I heard them speaking, boy, they sound just like Caymanians, boy. Indistinguishable. But we have a lot of ties with them, so this is them burning oil and stuff in the road.
Win. This go wrong. No.
So they're arguing. Was it Hurricane Mitch? So, oh my God, their flag is on the ground. No, sir. And they're arguing who you with this go around. He's like, this go around. Ay. Oh, Johan pulled out the Spanish this morning. Oh my gosh. Wanda. Cameron Brack says everyone's coming here for mediocre jobs or bringing fake police records because WRC does not vet anyone. Daniel, we don't have anybody calling in. Are you sure you're calling the right number? The right number? Let me see. Did we miss a call? Nope, no missed calls. So telephone number, put 345 in front of it if you're calling from overseas. You can call on WhatsApp, but you have to make sure. Is that the right number that I've given out? 936? Yeah, 936-2626. Yeah. Okay, so what a hot mess. Yeah, Daniel, give us a call. Make sure you got the right number. AJ says, let's deliberately shy away from saying third world countries instead of saying developing countries. Yeah, they're not called third world countries anymore, Miss Romelia. We need to have access to other countries' database to know what kind of people coming to our shores due to the easy access to obtain a false police record. This is where the fingerprinting system would be effective. Who's going to give you access to their database? You think Guanaja and stuff giving you access to their database? Lord have mercy. You must be thinking wrong there. I don't know what kind of logic that is. All right, caller, turn down whatever you're listening to in the background for me, please.
Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Miss Sandra. This is Daniel Ebanks calling from Mangrove Bay, Guanaja.
Yes, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Looking at your program this morning, seeing all the videos, hearing myself in the videos.
Yes.
I got attacked yesterday, but I wanna first of all, I'm gonna try to not cuss on this. Because,
yeah, no. Don't try. Definitely don't cuss.
I'm not gonna cuss
because,
on this, but
yeah, because we're on radio. If it was after 9:30 and we were just on social media, that would be different. But we're on radio.
You're national radio. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the problem that we are facing with these elections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to bring this down to a very short time because I have some stuff to do today, but I want to participate and I want to give you the details on what's happening. Guanaja has been ruled by two parties. Well, Honduras has been ruled by two parties for the last, 150 years or whatever. nationals and liberals. Nationals are the blue party, liberals is the red party. So Guanaja had 16 consecutive years of, ruling the island. The corruption level was
And
terrible.
which of the parties would that have been? What's it called?
The
Blue Party? What are they called?
The Nationals.
Okay.
The National Party of Honduras.
Okay.
And the Reds would be the Liberal Party from Honduras. So we got sick and tired of the Nationals ruling this island for 16 years.
Okay.
And the Liberal Party come up with someone, who promised to be different and to not have any corruption going on. That was just promises made. So in 2013, we made the decision, 2013, we made the decisions to get rid of the Blue Party or the National Party to replace it with Spurgeon Miller, who is the former mayor. He ruled from 2014 to 2026. They just give in, the liberals just give in to the National Party again. So what happened in the elections in November 32, 2025 was that we had a third party in here, which was Libre. So the elections was very tight. It run down that the National Party won by 3 votes.
Oh, wow.
Defeating the Liberal Party. So these are the things that people are not talking about. The media just talks about all of the different stuff that happened, but the main problem they're not talking about. So, okay, we have a sworn-in mayor by the National Party who has been sworn in almost 2 months ago. This guy is not linked to what the rest of people was linked to that run the island, which is drug trafficking, organized crime, and corruption. This guy is really doing a great job. And his opponent, the one that lose against him, Sherry Borden, did not accept the results of the elections, even though they sworn him in with credentials, lawless. They did everything by, they swear him in. She went to the Capitol. Like I said, this is all organized crime and, corruption. And she got the Supreme Court to eliminate the 3 votes that give this man the win, to say that it was a tie so we could repeat elections. This is a level of corruption.
Do you know on what legal basis the Supreme Court made that decision?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But it is you could go into further investigation. Probably somebody that's listening right now could give you that information. But we know how Honduras works. We know how Guanaja works. The Bay Islands is corrupt. We need this woman to really accept that she lost. We have a mayor that is sworn in by the Supreme Court, given credentials to run this island, and they are trying to overthrow him by fraudulent elections. If we accept to go to new elections, which we don't have to accept it because the court system in Honduras has been so corrupted for the past 30 years that all they've been given the opportunities is to drug trafficking, corruption, and crime to run the country. If Bonacca accepts to go to new elections, they will also lose and they will overthrow this man that already swearing in there, because that's the way the organized crime in Bonacca works. We know for sure that if we go to elections against Sherry Borden and all the big people from Roatan Island, which was here yesterday, we will lose because they are used to doing these kind of elections. Spurgeon Miller has won elections due to drug traffickers who run this island.
Let's make sure we say allegedly.
Okay, my life has been endangered. I've been threatened for the past, I don't know what, since I started talking about what's happening in Guanaja. I'm and I wouldn't call myself an influencer, but I would to say it like that you could get an idea of what we talk about. We talk with stuff based on proof, of the corruption. We have exposed the corruption on this island with true things. I mean, we got the backup that we could that what happened in here is a lot of different crime and organized crime, most of all. But Bonacca standing strong that we are not going to new elections against these people because we were lost.
Wow. So
it's
yesterday,
down here.
Yeah. So yesterday was supposed to be the re-elections, but that didn't happen because of this violence.
Because it did not happen. The National Party, or the party that's in power right now in Bonacca, will not accept because it is fraudulent elections. I mean, why did this? If things wasn't straight, why did they took and swear this man in, give him credentials by the Honduras Justice Court? Why they did not wait to straighten this out before swearing this man in? This man is already in power by the Supreme Court, by the Honduras government, and now they want to back down on that.
So what is the position now? When are they going to hold the re-elections, and what's going to happen?
The court has not decided yet when. I mean, we haven't seen that yet. They just said that they're going to reschedule elections. But the National Party of Bonacca holds that it will not make any other deal with the Liberal Party because we already know what's going to happen. So our position or not, I mean, I'm not from either one of these parties, but I do accept the elections that we had November 30, and I do accept that this man won the elections. I mean, they swear him in. So I'll give all of my support to him as our mayor and not to the Liberal Party because we know what they does and what they have done. Especially this regime, especially Sherry Borden. She was already vice mayor 4 years ago, and in the last term, now she wants to go for mayor. And, she has corrupt the island. She has corrupt the whole system. She has corrupt. I mean, she failed to help everything. Bonacca has been living without we've been living without law for the past 40 years. Miss Sandra, you know how much people has been murdered on this island and just found dead around the place and not one did an investigation? Nothing. All the crackheads, they're killing them out one by one. Destroying, some of them, they cut their heads off. And these are the things that's happening in this island that people do not want to talk about because it's very serious. I mean, my life has been threatened. I get threats every day. Look at yesterday. I was riding my motorcycle through town. Not even, I wasn't even around like these people that I ran into. They just stand in the middle of these women stand in the middle of the road, opened their arms up with sticks and started beating me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's
what is the population there in Bonacca? What's the population like?
Exactly. I don't really know. Not even that we have a really good record of. This island is corrupt. I'm telling you, we don't have clear of anything. They say the population is around 9,000 people, which I don't think we have that much people. But registered voters, there's only 2,900 people. So
that's it.
To show you how that goes to show you how the corruption works. It's not fair. Nothing is fair here. So registered voters is only 2,900 out of 9,000 people. And out of that, the results of the elections, it was only 2,500 voters. So the people that we brought in to vote, not even
less
the people that
less than 3,000 people, and we fighting like this.
Exactly. This is the situation that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody just wants to talk about different stuff, but the main problems they don't want to talk about. Imagine, this place is not, I mean, how will tourists ever come to this island where there's always big scandals, shots going off all hours of the night, killing people in the bars? How much people now have been murdered in bars in Bonacca, to just go there, shoot them down and no investigation. They pick up the body and go bury it. This is what happens in Bonacca. This is the story that nobody don't want to tell because everybody afraid of what's going on. You know, people get threatened. I mean, I'm going to get threats today after this talk. I know that. I've been getting them for years. You know, they even want me out of the place that I'm living right here, you know, because I'm a disturbed to whatever happens around here. So it's not a pretty situation for nobody. I could see what happened yesterday. That was a very, very intense day. I mean, I got attacked by these ladies, which, you know, they bust my head. They licked me all up, and it was brutal. And this is the people that wants to rule this island, that have been ruling this island. Wow. So there hasn't been any law for anybody. Who could I go to about what happened to me yesterday? You know, who will I go to? How will I get these people to justice? It ain't none. They could have killed me yesterday and they would have buried me today because there ain't no justice. Wow. This is the reality and the facts. I'm not making up anything on anybody. Yeah. I'm just saying what I have been living through the past 45 years in Bonacca.
So some people are saying, you know, I mean, some Caymanians say, well, they don't really care what's happening in Bonacca. Other people are saying, you know, we're very closely connected because a lot of Caymanian descendants now live in Bonacca. I understand after we obtained, you know, freedom from slavery. So they claim a lot of people moved to the Bay Islands. And so they are direct descendants of Caymanians, and we share similar last names. Like your last name is Ebanks, you know?
I'm Ebanks more. I'm a full Bonacca.
Yeah. So when you hear Caymanians say that they don't really care what's happening there, because some are taking that position, Johan says he doesn't care, that I have nothing to do with Cayman. Why do you think people in the Cayman Islands should care?
Well, because a lot of people, you mean local Caymanians or local Hondurans?
Yeah, well, I mean, either way. I mean, but yeah, local Caymanians. Well, let's start with local Caymanians.
For number one reason, most of the locals that live in Caymans, they all come home to do elections. You know, they all decide who's going to be the mayor. So this is one of the big reasons that they should really think about what's going on instead of thinking about color positions. You know, we need, I mean, Bonacca could be a great tourism system between both our sister island Caymanian, because most of our descendants, like you say, are from the Caymans or England. You know, we're all Caribbean, you know, people. But number one, I think that this is why all Caymanians should really think about what's happening in Bonacca is because we need to lift this place back up to where part we used to be. I really believe that because we used to have a connection between here and the Cayman Islands. We don't have that anymore. You know, a maritime connection. I mean, we used to have boats going from here. We have a few, but not like what we need. We need to make a big relationship between the Cayman Islands and Honduras. Most of our people are in the Cayman Islands. Most of our people, you know, that overseas are in the Cayman Islands. We have hundreds of people up there. I think you know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the system is corrupt, and I don't know if this is going to ever change based on what happened yesterday. It's really sad to see that we are not coming ahead in any form and matter, Miss Sandra.
Yeah, it's sad. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for giving us some additional insight into what is happening there. It just sounds like a very sad situation. But keep us updated, I guess, when the re-election is being held. I mean, it's hard to understand, if the Supreme Court made a decision, we hope that it was done on legal grounds and not political grounds. But like you said, even
it's definitely political grounds. It's not legal. All of this is blown political, tied to different political strategies that they're using to do these kind of things. We know that for sure. And it all linked to Roatan, the corruption that they got over there with the Liberal Party.
Wow. Okay. And from my notes here, the current mayor saying that he was not going to publicly participate in yesterday's rerun. And I know Telesaiba actually did an interview and he argued that his side already won once and should not have to prove it again.
Why should we prove it again? The thing is, Ms. Sandra, if this was a tie, like they said that it was a tie, why did they swear him in? Why did the Supreme Court give him credentials and swear him in? if it was consistencies before this, why didn't they just, say, okay, we can't swear you in because there's a tie? But no, if you look at the page from the Electoral College or Consejo Nacional Electoral, it's still up there that who won the elections in Bonacca was the National Party by 3 votes. It's still there. So this is all political figures that are behind all of this situation, and this will probably continue. All the riots yesterday, in between our own people fighting one another. Just some of these ladies that was beating me, they're my cousins.
Oh my God!
So just think about that. That is enough to think about. Shameless ladies. Look at what happened yesterday. This is not what we used to doing, man. This is not.
Oh my gosh.
Political parties has divided us.
So sad. Well, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Appreciate your comments this morning. You too. All right, my dear. All right. So red versus blue. What a hot mess. Very, very sad. Let me just read a few more comments and then we're going to bring Mr. Kenneth Bryan in the show. We are going to be switching gears a little bit here. Carolyn says her town got burnt down and no one was responsible for it. And it was under the Liberal Party. Spurgeon Miller was the mayor. Over 130 houses were lost. Alice says, true, Daniel, blow it out. Carolyn says we need to care because the former mayor has become a citizen of the Cayman Islands and he walked with a lot of drug lord people in Bonacca. Well, apparently he does have Cayman status based on what Amanda said. Alice said, I grew up in Cayman. My grandma was from Cayman, Baden town. Gabby says, if anything was to happen to Cayman, they're going to want others to care about that too. About that though. Such a small-minded mentality. CJ Cooper Baden says the Bay Islands is literally close cousins to Cayman Islands. The settlers of these islands were Caymanian, thus the same last names. Duh. Shaka Zulu says, Uncle Johan, please have some sympathy for the Caymanian diaspora in the Bay Islands. These people are Caymanians, albeit from generations ago, but there are still tight connections over there. Cuman Bracker, Carrie says, sadly, we're on the same route too. Well, hopefully not the route of lawlessness. Amanda says, democracy means rule by the people, a system of government where power is vested in citizens who exercise it directly or through the elected representatives. It is characterized by free elections, equality before the law, civil liberties, and popular sovereignty government of, by, and for the people, and corruption in government is the abuse of entrusted power, authority, or public office for illegitimate private gain. It involves dishonest actions by officials such as bribery, embezzlement, and then it cuts off. So it looks like she is reminding us of what democracy is supposed to be about. Yes, we are on our YouTube channel. Go follow the backup channel at Cayman Mall Road. Cayman is the backup channel this morning. What a hot mess. Well, Carolyn says that the Liberal Party also by the people votes. Yikes. Oh, we hope that you guys can get it sorted out. So my understanding is they're going to be having a re-election now, a runoff election, I guess. Carolyn says that on November the 30th, 2025, the people of Bonacca spoke clearly and chose who they wanted as mayor. The will of the people must be respected. For 12 years, our community has lived under a liberal administration that has failed the people. Donations disappeared, the community was neglected, and the people have left without protection or justice, have been left. Today, we see young people 16 to 18 years old selling drugs in the streets. Anyone can have a gun without it being registered. And the entire island, unfortunately, the rest got cut off. But we get your point there, Carolyn. So we'll continue to, I guess, keep an eye on this situation and keep you guys updated, because I do think Caymanians do care about what's happening here. I was surprised that the voting population was so small, though. Just a couple thousand people, basically. What? All right. A few more messages, and then we're ready for Mr. Kenneth Bryan. So let me just see here now. We have this person saying the following. 1 second here. Let me just put them up on the screen. This person says, good morning, Sandy. I think that our interest in the Bay Islands is our forefathers went there to help make a living years back, but there is not much there anymore. But we, the Cayman Islands, have to watch what's going on, what's coming out of that place, like the drugs into these fish boats and drug mules carrying it in their bodies. Our government needs to crack down on these people big time. I mean, physically they're close. So yes, there's a very good argument there that even for those reasons of protecting our own interests, we should care about what's happening in the Bay Islands, because a lot of them do have ancestral connections and they're able to come to Cayman quite easily and work and go back and forth. And we do get a lot of fishing boats from the Bay Islands as well. In fact, just the other day, one was held up for irregular documents. Our government, by the way, we've not heard a single word about this from our government. We were the only local news agency that reported on this story. And that's because, thank you to all of the Bonaccans here in Cayman who keep on top of these things and inform me that this news story was trending in Honduras. But of course, Cayman people didn't know anything about it because our government didn't say anything until, I think, maybe afterwards. I can't even remember if they issued a statement afterwards, after a story. But yeah, we have to pay attention to these things. We don't live in a silo anymore, right? This person says, tell Johan that we have to care about other people's humanity. Additionally, we need to know what's happening so that we can ensure that it doesn't happen here. This person said, good morning, Sandy. I wanted to put input on the issue of Honduras. The electoral process in Honduras has been deeply concerning from the very beginning. From the way the election date was chosen to how the vote was carried out, there have been clear signs of irregularities and collusion among parties that have fostered corruption. For instance, roughly 20,000 voting sheets. 20,000? I thought you only had 2,000 voters. Huh? How many? 20,000 voting sheets, which could represent about 200,000 votes, were never counted. According to electoral rules, a recount must begin within 30 days of the election, yet authorities waited 21 days just to set it up, leaving only 8 days to conduct the recount. This delay, coupled with the omissions of thousands of votes, casts serious doubts on the integrity of the election results and undermines public trust in the democratic process. Wow. And of course, all of these things remind us, living in a country that has rules and has constitutional ways in which ballot boxes are handled and all this kind of stuff. Because once again, we've had elections that have been won and lost by just a couple votes. It's important that we support the integrity of the voting system. What a mess. They have a very Bonacca, often called the Cay, located off the mainland of Guanaja, Honduras, is a tiny, densely populated island measuring less than 100 acres. And I mean, they do appear to be very densely populated, and that's why anytime that there's like a fire or anything that breaks out, it just moves very, very quickly. Okay, so we'll continue to monitor that situation, but we do want to move on to a topic here that was trending over the weekend. Mr. Kenneth Bryan, are you ready, sir? So Mr. Bryan posted a video over the weekend in relation to what's it called? In relation to the fishermen on the waterfront there. So this case has gone to, I think we reported in February, it has gone to Grand Court for a ruling where Mr. Chris Johnson is actually suing the Cayman Islands government for their attempts to acquire this property through, I think it's, let me just pull up my notes here. I think it's through compulsory acquisition. And so over the weekend, the former Minister of Tourism and continues to be a Georgetown representative, Kenneth Bryan, did make some commentary on this through a social media video. And so let's listen to some of it. I think it was kind of long, so we can't listen to the full thing, but we can pull it up a little bit here. And let me just see where I have it downloaded. We can listen to some of the video. Did I download it? I thought I did. Hold on one second. Someone says, I guess we have Johan's attention now. Lord have mercy. Okay, give me 1 second here. Let me just let me just try to download this really quickly. All right, and then Mr. Bryan's going to be joining us to discuss, what his position is in relation to the land there. I mean, not for nothing, but the government, and when I say the government, I'm generally saying the government, has had ample opportunity to try to resolve this. And my notes say that they just haven't been very effective at doing so. And so this issue might lay squarely on the feet of the government. And, it's interesting because what I think as well is when we see things happening, like there's a whole question mark around the government acquiring this property, this one Capitol Place, right? When government has the opportunity to acquire certain property and they don't, and then later on they figured out, oh yeah, this is actually a good deal or valuable property, they can't then just go back and try to compulsory get it. I mean, government has to exercise some common sense in how it operates as well. Another person says, Johan is the one getting blazed up today. Ay, caramba. All right, so let's have a listen to, I think it's still downloading, almost done, to some of the video that was posted. And I think that some of you, though, are also confused. I mean, I saw some of you are saying, let's, don't they have squatters' rights and all sorts of stuff that doesn't really make any sense. So no, that's not how you acquire squatters' rights. Ms. Alice says, thank you, Sandra. You're most welcome. Carolyn says, to clarify, Bonacca's population is around 5,500 people. And Abby says, can someone please explain how they can sell raw meat on someone else's private land without being trespassed by the police? We're going to talk about it. All right, I believe her video is ready. Let's watch some of this video that was posted on Saturday, I believe. Here we go. Okay, this is
afternoon, everybody.
MP Kenneth Bryan.
Kenneth Bryan here. Coming to you today to do a post about the fish market. As you can see behind me, this is a known location for where our fishermen, our local fishermen for years have been selling fish. Very beautiful location. A lot of people come here. It's known for years, even for me as a young boy. I used to come here with my dad after he went fishing and help him clean the fish and sell it. Why am I doing this video? I'm doing this video because we're at a crossroads with a determination on whether this land is going to continue to be preserved from a historical and heritage standpoint. For the fishermen who've been selling fish here on this property for as long as I've been alive, at least I know that. I think it goes way longer, and I'm 45, so it could be a whole lot longer. I think it's well over 60 years. But some of you may be aware that the case is currently in court after the government that I was a part of in 2025, right before the election. We passed a motion in Parliament to ensure that this piece of property here is supposed to be preserved and protected for the future use of all generations, and particularly that of the fishermen, to continue our heritage of being a heritage site where we sell fish. Forgive me, the sun is in my face, so it's a bit hard to look at the camera at the same time as look at the background. Now, we passed that in 2024? Yeah, 2024, in December 2024 in Parliament, right after the government changed, or the lame duck government was in power, but it was passed in the floor of Parliament. The government attorneys have taken the case to court, and the case is currently before the courts right now, being decided, and the attorneys for the landowner, Mr. Chris Johnson, are trying to challenge the compulsory acquisition of the land, to say that the government shouldn't have the right to do this. Now, sorry, forgive me. I'm trying to bring it to the attention of everybody because I really hope that the government and the courts see the need for why Parliament decided to do a compulsory acquisition after much discussions with the Johnson family to try to acquire this property in the best interest of our heritage and Cayman culture and who we're known for. But after years and years of trying to do that, refused to sell it. And now that the government has taken action, or the Parliament passed a motion for it to be publicly or compulsory acquired, now it's before the courts being challenged. Right as we speak, the case isn't even over, the judge has not made a ruling yet, but I hope that the public understands the significance of this case that's before the court. Because it's not just about the fishermen, it's about if we're ever going to be able to use legislation to protect our historical and our heritage as a country. I mean, this site is probably the only site in Georgetown that tells you that you're in a Caribbean island, to be honest with you, sometimes outside of the sun-seen sand, that shows you that, you know, we're island people. And I don't know how some people don't understand the importance of preserving this, and though I respect the right to free and private land holdings, there's still something that goes above all that. There's still something that goes above all of that, which is the right to protect who we are. And I don't think that it is fully understood the magnitude of this and what it will mean going forward. Forgive me, folks, the sun in my eye and it making my eye water a lot. But the significance of this case is going to be bigger than most of us understand it. And I know a lot of us are not paying attention to the case before the court because we got a lot of other things to do. You know, priorities, you know, take care of our families, get through the high cost of living and all these other things. But I have to bring it to our attention because, and it's not only about Georgetown, this is a symbol of the ability to protect what we are as Caymanians, particularly when you get historical situations like this. Like, say for example, if we thought Pedro St. James was owned by a private owner and that owner wanted to say, you know what, I don't want the Pedro Castle there anymore and I don't want this historical site to be considered as that, does the government of the day or the people through their elected members have their right under law to forcefully acquire that to preserve our historical cultural behavior? And that's what this public acquisition is about. And if this case is failed in court and if the judge comes back not in favor of a parliamentary decision to force acquire this location, we have so much more to worry about, because it's not just about this one location. It will set a precedent across the Cayman Islands period, whether we'll have the right to preserve what we know is culturally and historically our heritage in various different ways and forms. I find this is the fact that we're being fought against to try to preserve this shows that there's people who don't believe we should be protected and that our Caymanian way should be protected. And that really concerns me. So I know that most of you may not even been paying attention to this case, but the case is before the court right now. And I'm begging you to share this with everybody else, because I want the attorneys, I want the owner, the current owner of the land, to understand that the public wants this property. And it's more than just this property, it's more than just the fishermen, because this will set a precedent on whether we'll be able to protect what we know as Cayman, when the people have decided to say, you know what, that is important, that has history, has heritage connected to it, and that we should have a right under law to do that. I personally think the law needs to be strengthened in this space so we don't have challenges before the court, but that's a different question for a different day. But a lot of us are not paying attention to the headlines. And I'm trying to do this now because I don't want us to start paying attention to it after the judge has made their decision and said, oh, you know, God forbid the government's attorneys lose that challenge and then these fishermen have to leave. Then everybody's going to be in uproars as to what this means. Not only the emotional component to the loss of every time you drive by the waterfront, those fishermen are gone, it's no longer there. It's a staple identification of Georgetown, and to know that they won't be there would be, I don't even know how to express it in words of how disappointing that would be. But that's what's at risk, and I want us to really think about that, because it could be West Bay, it could be Georgetown. Think about somewhere in your area, in your constituency, in your district that you feel is culturally, historically preserved and been used as Cayman, as a way of a Caymanian symbolism for hundreds of years, and it could be destroyed. You have no provisions to protect it if this case is failed, because I'm telling you, this is going to be a precedent-setting case, and I've been trying to stay close to it, not only because this area is in my constituency, but what it means to the bigger picture of who we are as Cayman and Caymanians, and what can we protect to keep our identity. So I encourage each and every one of you to think about it. Think about that. Think about what it means if the judge decides that even through the elected arm, through Parliament ratification, to say we want to force acquire a location that means something to our culture, our heritage, and who we are as a people, and a symbol of our identity. And the courts decide to say, no, we will not allow that over the rights of a person's property. What that means to the bigger picture and what could potentially happen, because that's what's at stake. And it's a serious judgment. I don't even know who the judge is. I really pray for them to make the right decision, because this is a serious one. It's going to have a huge impact on our ability to protect our identity, our history, our culture, and our heritage. So if you can, do a Google search. It's before the courts. A couple of other media houses have been reporting on it, and I hope that more of the media houses are putting it on their front lines, not a backstory, but the headlines, because it's going to make such a significant impact. And I hope you, those who are watching now, be bold enough to share this on your Facebook page so that everybody's talking about it and everybody knows about it, because it's significant. It may not be that significant to you right now, but trust me, one day this case and the ruling in it will be the distinction as to how we be able to preserve anything moving forward. And that matters a lot to me, to you, and to your children and the next generation, and our identity as a country. So I beg you, please share this. Talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your family members, talk about it with your grandparents, your mom, your dad, the people that you know what Cayman is all about and how we got here, because that's very, very important. Anyway, with that being said, I'll leave it there. But I felt that, especially when reading the article in a local CNS article recently, and the comments is what disturbed me the most, some of the comments about, our people and the historical side of it was really, really depressing in my humble opinion. I'm saddened to see some people think of this market that way. And if you want to go look at it, you can go to CNS. I can't remember the name of the article, but it's probably in their top 5 stories recently. You can see it, and just the comments really have me nervous if that's the mental state of mind of many people about the ability to protect what is historically ours. Caymanians, if you don't say something now, when it's all over, we're not going to have anything to complain about. I'm doing my part. Do your part. Stand up. Let your government members know. Let the Chief Justice and the judicial system know that you want these things protected so you can protect who we are as Caymanians and your identity, because it's more than just a fisherman's market. This is the ability to protect who we are as a people. What is our identity, who we are, whether it's just our Caymanian way. We're losing it second by second, day by day, month by month, year by year, because I know many of you who are generational Caymanians who grew up here don't even recognize it from when you went to school when you were a kid. So with that being said, I'll stop my rant there, but I'm begging you, please share this, talk about it, and bring the attention to the forefront, because I know there's a lot of other priorities you have, rightfully so, particularly with the high cost of living and the pressures that we're going through, not only locally, but regionally and globally. But this one is important and it's timely. The judges are hearing the evidence on this precedent-setting case right now. And we have to start talking about it at the coolers, in our office, at our dining room tables, in our churches, in our homes, with our kids, with our loved ones, with our families, because it's going to have a significant impact on the future. With that being said, God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful weekend, and please, I beg you, share it on your Facebook page profile. Take care.
All right, folks. We are waiting on Kenneth Bryan to come on and discuss this a little bit more from his perspective, but it's one of those things. There's a couple issues here that I think we need to delve into. Number one, a lot of you are asking about the history of this area and who actually owns it, and kind of, what's been going on there. So this area, which is called Dora's Beach / the Fish Market in Georgetown, is owned by businessman Chris Johnson. There have been, and I'm kind of surprised that we've even gotten to this point, but let me just say this much, is over the years, the last government, the previous government, I should say, the progressive government, let me put it this way, when they were in power, this issue had flared up, because if you go back historically to CMR's coverage of this, it dates back, I think, all the way to at least 2019, where we were going on about what was happening then, because at that time, Mr. Johnson was going to put his foot down in relation to, this Red Spot Beach area. It's called Red Spot Beach. And so we went from that government claiming that back in 2019, 2020, that they had resolved this issue, right? There was a big hoopla back in 2020 where Joey Hugh, who is now the leader of the opposition, in December 2020, says that now it has been set up in a perpetual trust for the people of the Cayman Islands. So my first question is, how on earth did this happen? How do we go from supposedly a perpetual trust to now it being litigated in court, where Mr. Johnson is fighting for his rights as a landowner? That's pretty shocking and concerning. So that would be my first question, to be honest, is what happened there? The progressives did not close the deal as they claimed that they had. So once again, when previous governments don't do what they're supposed to do, they actually bind the hands of not just future governments, my apologies, but also the people of the Cayman Islands. So one person made some observations in relation to this, and I'm going to share with you what they had to say. They said that Mr. Johnson tirelessly worked with CIG previously to find a suitable solution involving moving the fishmongers to another piece of land that he owned for rent-free, to which they initially agreed, but then reneged on that. And I don't know where that piece of land is, but he wants to develop the land to make it more accessible to locals and tourists to use the beach, i.e. ramps, chairs, trees, and shading. And he has no interest in any commercial development of the land and is willing to put it in trust for the people of the Cayman Islands. While he acknowledges fishermen used to clean their fish catch on the Iron Shore, the tent and current fishmongers are a recent development, and they put recent dates, 2008, 2009, as satellite photos was shown in court. No government department made any effort to oppose or even make in-person representations at any of the 5 planning hearings, despite invitation. Those are the hearings where Mr. Johnson was seeking permission to turn it into a park for the public. The government is acquiring 2 parcels of land where the fishmongers are on only one. No explanation by the CIG as to why they need the other parcel. So some questions here. Now, this is before the courts. And so there are some people who are critical of any commentary of this. And I think Johan actually touches on this when he says that this could potentially be seen as sub judice, and that maybe it's best to let it all play out in the courts or the legal process. Well, it's already there. So I do think that Mr. Kenneth Bryan's comments at this stage are a little bit late in the day because it's already before the courts. I believe that the arguments are done even. So, I mean, you can't go to court and show up and be like, oh yeah, I want to watch this. As far as I know, the arguments are already done. And they're just waiting on the judge for the decision. So the judge will go away, review everything, and come back with a decision in writing, no doubt, because this is a pretty big case that, as Kenneth Bryan rightfully says, MP Bryan, that it is going to be precedent setting in terms of what government can and can't do when it comes to compulsory acquisition. Now, to be fair, all of us should have a keen interest in this case, because compulsory acquisition is something that the government should not be using willy-nilly. And I think this case will explain the parameters at which government can actually use compulsory acquisition. So I think that the government could come tomorrow to your property and say, well, that property, we need it for something. We're going to just take it by compulsory acquisition. You might be in a position where you're going to say, oh, hold on, honey child, not so quick, not so fast. And so I do believe that that is exactly one of the challenges that Chris Johnson has put forward. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competing interests here, right? So Johan says, let's back up a little bit. I think we're here. John LaRue says, why is it that I just don't trust this guy, Kenneth? Johan says, does MP Bryan understand the principles of matters being sub judice? This is political interference by a sitting member of parliament. So I don't think the judges care that he's commenting. However, and I don't know what CNS article he's referring to, but I am a little bit surprised maybe that CNS, I know a lot of times CNS will close off arguments or close off comments in cases that are before the court, but maybe that's just the criminal courts. I don't know if they do that for civil, but anyway, there is an interesting point here about whether or not, a sitting MP should be commenting on this. I mean, like I said, I don't think the judges are going to be influenced by his comments one way or the other, but there is a fair question on whether or not he is commenting at a time that is appropriate. Even if it's not technically sub judice, is it appropriate for him to be doing so? That is questionable. Gabby says out there is starting to become a cruise ship passenger swimming spot now too. Why don't they buy where Paradise Bar used to be by Eden Rock and sell out there? And there's parking. Sometimes change is good. Johan says, meaning sub judice, Latin for under a judge, means that a particular case or matter is under trial or being considered by a judge or court. Miss Romelia says, what about the old Keyman house on the corner of Lulin Drive and Elgin Avenue and by Foster's in West Bay? Are we talking about protecting our heritage? If we were talking about protecting our heritage. Well, there are ways that you can protect your heritage, and there are ways that government can acquire these properties, and they should do so, but they actually have to follow that process as well, right? So the argument on the one side is that government is using compulsory acquisition because that's the easiest way to do it, but it's not the way that's going to work. And that's why Mr. Johnson is making the challenge. So Johnson has publicly said that the land is not for sale because he wants to donate it in trust to the people of Cayman Islands as a public park with no commercial development. And yeah. Okay. My apologies. Oh my God, we forgot to do squats. That's why I'm yawning. Get up, folks. Let's do some squats. We totally missed one segment at 8:30, but let's go ahead and do some now. Johan says, it is best to, I got to time my little thing here. Hermes says, I smell Dart Enterprise should behind all of this, just like Sandbar next to it. I don't think the Dart organization has anything to do with this. It's widely known that Mr. Chris owns the property and, he has a legal right to the property. It's his property. Morning, Leanna. Rose McPhail says, stop talking about culture. Cayman doesn't have any culture. Laughs so sad. Leanna says, isn't this the same man that wanted to get rid of the fish market for cruise berthing port? Irvlin says, what? But who sold that? Who sold that what in the first place? Who sold that land in the first place? I think it's been owned. I don't think government ever owned it, to be honest, Irvlin. So, landowners can sell and acquire their land as they wish. So let's go ahead and do our squats. Let's aim for anybody there. Irvlin, you can count for me. Let's aim for 25 this morning and see how we get on. Gotta get my form right. All right, ready? We're gonna start with 1. Caymankind says, it's my understanding that Mr. Johnson wants to turn the property over to the National Trust for Caymanians. Well, he says he wants to put it in trust. I don't really have any details on how he intends to put it in trust. Normally that may not be the national trust because you can put it in trust like a private trust. And then he probably has more control over it if he does it that way, because then he's able to specify different use purposes and so on. Marshall says, my question would be, how did a foreigner come to Cayman and was able to acquire that piece of land in the first place? Well, Marshall, just like everybody else acquires land, it's called you purchase it. You buy it. That's how. And obviously at some point, he purchased the land and he was able to buy it lawfully. So I don't think you can question Mr. Johnson's acquisition of it if there was nothing unlawful about the acquisition. And no one has ever, to be very clear, no one has ever said that. So someone just commented on the WhatsApp that they understand that Mr. Norberg Thompson, who had the bakery there, owned the land and he sold it to Chris Johnson because it was actually part of Norberg Thompson's bakery at one point. What number are we at? Child, I'm tapped out already. I'm like, I feel done. But yes, what I would say is, if there's nothing wrong with that original transaction, you can't now question it to say something else. So I don't know. Let me see here. Oh, what number are we on, child? You did 30, Barbara? I lost count. Anybody counting for me? Y'all could just have me here going all day long. Irvin said I did 30 and lost track. All right, I feel like I've at least probably done 25 by now. All right. Yes, do it for your knees, Miss Amelia. Oh God, her knees. It'll help. Don't worry. Oh Lord. All right. Let me see here now. Too slow, Auntie. My brain was thinking a little bit too much. How low can you go? Can we get a camera from the side so we can see your form? Oh, I'll have to set that up. Oh Lord. Would that be considered Crown land before he bought it? No, it was privately owned. So looks like it was privately owned by Norberg Thompson, and he sold it. All right, so government is trying to acquire 2 parcels. No clear public explanation has been given as to why the second parcel is needed. That's one of the criticisms. Let me just see what other notes I have. Okay, so one of the things that Chris Johnson has said is that concrete has already been dumped on the beach area, and he wants to remove that as part of restoring the site. And he says that he's defending the shoreline and coastal access. All right, so who, under which government was this acquisition done? I'm assuming it's not this current government, so it must have been Juliana's government when she was in. Okay. Let me see. I think one of the other reasons is, again, they were able to show, and I think that this came up in court, they were able to show imagery that the fish guys are continuing to take over. So they're putting like more tents up, like they're doing more. And so for those of you who are arguing about squatters' rights, this now is where squatters' rights become an issue, for the fact that, you know, the government wants to acquire it, but if the private landowner allows these fishermen to continue to do that, that then becomes a legitimate argument in the future. I don't think they've quite gotten there yet in terms of what they're able to claim, but it does become a legitimate argument on whether or not they might be getting squatters' rights by doing so. So I'm sure that's why he now wants to develop it. It's time, he's saying, for them to go. Leanna says, poor Norberg Thompson. Someone ran into the last light on South Sound. Oh, someone ran into the last night? Leanna, check that. Something's missing from that. All right, Candace says the land was never owned by Norberg Thompson. The parcels still owned by the family are next to it. So that particular piece was never, Candace, owned by his family? So who sold it to Chris Johnson? I guess we need a proper rundown of who sold it and who purchased it and all that good stuff. Oh, kind of confusing. So I guess a lot of people think it was Norberg because of the proximity to his other parcels and the bakery. Leanna says PPM. Barbara says, can the government just put a stop to any business license for the property? Well, I don't think, I mean, they couldn't as a workaround to try to take the property for themselves, but I also don't know that what he's saying has anything to do with a business license. He's saying it's not for commercial development. So I don't know that there would be a business license. Yeah. All right. We're waiting on Mr. Bryan to jump on. He says he's ready. So there obviously is a, a real concern that I think legal clarification is always important, personally. I mean, we've seen it even as it relates to freedom of speech with my situation, where the judges say, you know what, this is an area that we need to clarify what the law says. And so they will use this as a test case to do so. And I don't, in principle, see anything wrong with that. I think that that's important to have this judicial clarification, because then that allows future governments to know what the parameters are of compulsory acquisition. But we've got Mr. Bryan now ready to jump on. Good morning, Kenneth. Bryan, how you doing, honey child?
Not too bad, Sandra. Thank you for having me on. Good morning to all your listeners.
Yes,
it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we're trying to figure out here, we watched your video in full, and you had a lot to say about, trying to preserve this and saying it's more than just a fisherman. It's about whether or not Cayman will be able to use the law to protect its historical and cultural heritage. On the flip side of that, there are people who argue that the government has unsuccessfully handled this case in the past. Do you know, since you are a member of the Progressives, what happened back in I know you weren't a member then, but now that you're on board with them, I don't know if anyone ever explained it to you, but what happened back in 2019, 2020, when this all came up previously, and then at the time, it was December of 2020, Minister of Commerce, the Honorable, at that time, Joey Hugh, made mention of the fact that they had come up with some deal with Chris Johnson that would allow this to be set in a perpetual trust. What happened? Why wasn't that done?
I have no idea. As you highlighted, I was not there at the time, so I can't give evidence or information in that respect. I do know that we are here now. I do know that there was a motion passed in the fourth quarter of 2024, where all members of parliament, including the Honorable Leader of Opposition, supported. And I do know that we issued a cabinet directive for compulsory acquisition, and it's now before the courts. As I said in my video, this case is more than just a fisherman. Like for some people, the fisherman's market is not that important, but I'm looking past just the fisherman's location to say what the precedent this will create. And it's going to be a big ruling, and I hope that it comes back in favor of the opportunity for Caymanians and legislators to be able to acquire, if necessary or when necessary, to protect and preserve our culture and our heritage, because we are already losing so much of it as we speak.
All right. So your critics are listening this morning, and they have said in the comment section, Johan brought up a point saying this is sub judice. Why would you be speaking about this now when this is before the courts? And also the fact that in prior instances where matters were before the court, whether it was like McKeeva Bush's incident, you said, no, you're not going to comment on it because it's before the court. So what is different in your mind about the situation with the fishermen now that this is, before the courts? This is a picture that we took a few years ago with these guys out there.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second, but I think your point was that why speak about it now as opposed to any other case?
Yeah, just that he's saying that it's sub judice. In his opinion, he's saying it's sub judice and it's before the courts.
Well, interestingly enough, I just had the similar conversation on a different media platform about sub judice. And I don't think, in my humble opinion, that this would merit those grounds. It's not a jury trial, 1 point. So we must think that a judge has the necessary training to look outside of any influence of or any input from outside. If it was a jury trial, I would be more cautious in this approach. But the other component is that I am in opposition, so I don't have any influence over the executive arm that directs the Attorney General to proceed with the case in any particular way. Everything that I've said has already been said in Parliament when we discussed the motion for it to be approved for compulsory acquisition. And besides that, this case is based on public's sentiment around the protection of this area, and how best to know what the public sentiment is, but for the public to voice their viewpoints. The last point I'll make in respect to sub judice is the conflicting nature of that interpretation. I am constitutionally obligated to the people of Georgetown Central and the Greater Cayman Islands to be their voice. So ultimately what we're saying is, you can't be my voice at a particular time. and how do I represent my people in cases like this. In a modern day like today with social media houses, we actually had similar conversations like this on other matters about the growing social media influence or growth, right to freedom of speech, and technology as it advances. I think you can just Google it, there's sentiment across the world that convention needs to be modernized to fit today's world, because those legislations and those conventions was created in a time where technology wasn't as advanced and media availability wasn't as advanced as it is today. And this challenge to freedom of right to speak has been more highlighted in today's day than it's ever been before. The last point, but a very small point, because I'm only just one person, but I have a right as a Caymanian, as a voter, to voice my opinion. But forget about my opinion or my position individually. Georgetown Red Spot is in my constituency. I have an obligation constitutionally as the elected Democratic member for that constituency to speak on their behalf. And they've spoken to me and they want their position clarified. And I also know that there's other people in our community who feel the same way. And I'm open to stronger experts in this area as to sub judice, to see whether if that rule applies in this context. Because again, I highlight the fact that there is judges that have judicial training to separate any influence. Second part is that I'm in opposition and I have no direct influence over that. So, and the standing orders do give leeway for certain discussions as long as it's not a jury case. So if you just look at the standing orders for Parliament, when we're in Parliament, that gives you scope of discussion. So it's not an absolutely, you cannot talk about it. It has to meet the certain requirements. And I want to remind the public that I'm not in Parliament. We're not in Parliament at this moment, and the speaker would be able to say, no, you can't speak. And they will be the judge and jury when we're in Parliament. I am now a member of public. I am also the member on behalf of the people of Georgetown Central and my public capacity. And I do not agree with that position, but I'm always open to learn. I'm always open to be corrected. But I do think, quite like what the Honorable Dr. Steve Macfield would say, like our Constitution, it needs to be groomed, it needs to be amended, it needs to be trimmed. And I think that convention and that loose regulatory framework around that needs to be evolved in today's day, particularly with the influence of media and the freedom and rights to public viewpoints on matters such as this.
All right. So operating under the existing law, because of course, one of the big things with laws, there has to be legal certainty, right? So you have to know what the law says, and any decisions that you're that are potentially being made, even as it relates to governments and the people and their rights versus the government. There has to be legal clarity. So we expect what will definitely come out of this decision is some additional legal clarity about what the compulsory acquisition legislation should be used for, what sort of instances, and if you can actually go in and just take someone's private property under any circumstances and do so with compulsory acquisition. There are people who obviously on the side of Mr. Johnson, him and his attorneys are arguing that that's not going to be the case, that shouldn't happen. And there is this question, though, that he has actually said that he intends to put this land in some sort of a trust for the people of the Cayman Islands, and he does not intend to use it for any commercial development. I don't think that was mentioned in your video, but do you think that that's an important consideration for the people to, keep in the back of their minds?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing, and I congratulate Mr. Johnson for wanting to do that. I think that's been the position for some time now in respect to it. So I'm glad that he's willing to contribute by allowing it to be protected for the Caymanian people. But we're taking out the components of the fishermen and the cultural activity that was done there for over 60 years. Because what I understand is that that's what he did not want there. The behavior, the activity of what we did for so many years. So great, that's good that it'll be for the Caymanian people, but that's like saying, for instance, we are removing it so it can be a park. It won't have the same strength from a cultural and heritage perspective for some other means. So though I think there's merit to be considered there, and I want to take this opportunity to say, Mr. Johnson is a well-respected individual in our community, and by all means, my position on this has nothing to do with my respect for him, but more so about the principle that this would apply to the long-term viewpoint of protecting our culture and our heritage. So that's great that he's doing that. I wish he would have just done that with allowing the same activity to be done there. I just even think about the tourism perspective. One of the key things I remember a visitor saying to me, I didn't even realize I was in the Caribbean until I passed the fish market, because we have evolved so much that we have the symbols and the signs and activities of us being a Caribbean island are being lost day by day. And I think this is one of those things we should stand for, because it could be a precedent for something else.
So to his argument, though, he says he doesn't want commercial activity there. I guess he's also, I mean, I haven't seen the legal arguments put forward, but what's happening there with the fishermen is commercial activity. It's not like they're there just doing it for a tourist experience or for free, right? They're actually selling and making money off of being able to utilize his property. So one of the arguments from his side of the table seems to be he does not want any commercial activity there.
Yeah, and I respect that. It is his property currently. Hence the reason why government after government has said, listen, we understand this is your property and we would like to compensate you for it. Therefore, not being abusing that there is commercial activity in the public good from a historical perspective. Let us compensate you and then you sell it. But that was never accepted. And the law protects him to be adequately compensated for the property. So, I mean, if you take that conversation, you can say that it sounds as if there wants to be a dictation as to what can happen there. And it's particularly about the cultural behavior of selling fish there. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that position. Still respect him individually, but I don't agree with that position, because regardless if it's commercial or not, it can still be historical, cultural component of our past and what identifies us as a Caymanian community and as Georgetowners and as Caymanians, period.
Okay. All right. 936-2626. The phone lines are open. We do have some comments. Sorry, let me just pull some of these up here. Liana says the fishermen have been there for years and caused no harm. That beach now became a tourist attraction. Marshall says, well, there you go. Caymanians selling out the country in terms of land, and now the government wants to take it back. Liana says, clearly it's the last view of the sunset on the seaside before you see all the skyscrapers heading in and out of town. Johan says a matter before the court, defining what sub judice means. Let's see.
Sandra, I do apologize, but I'm not going to be able to stay with you much longer. I actually have a committee meeting at 10 o'clock at Parliament, which I had to send a message to say I'm going to be late. But I'm sorry, because I was supposed to be on with you from earlier.
Yes.
So that is my fault. I'm happy to come on another time, but I'm going to take 2 more minutes with you before I leave.
Okay. All right. No problem. Aisle 2025 says, I like how willing MP Bryan is to call in. The second his name is called, he'll call in to provide his side. So he was scheduled to come on today, Aisle 2025, and we were supposed to have him on a little bit earlier. But one question is, someone says you were in support of the port being built, but then you're trying to save this parcel if those two positions don't contradict each other. So maybe you could speak to that as your final comment before you leave.
I don't think they conflict each other, and I am happy to say that I support the people's public opinion. We've had a referendum that people have chosen, so cruise pier is no longer an issue. I believe in democracy, and I believe that the referendum did its job. So the cruise pier thing is a non-issue anymore. And besides that, there is probably about, I think, 5 or 7 other parcels that are individually owned by different people. before you even get to that parcel. So I know that some people have been trying to sell it, that there's a connection with the cruise pier referendum and cruise pier building, but it has nothing to do with it. And that's why it was so important to me to clarify in my message, in my video, stating that my support for it to be protected from any other kind of development for the people. So that would be a non-issue. And that was also aired in Parliament with the motion. And that's the directive that the government has from Parliament to acquire it and protect it, that it cannot be used for anything else, including cruise or anything else.
All right. And the final question, Miss Anita kind of touches on this, that they should move down to Whitehall Bay Area. There was a offer by Mr. Johnson, who owns other parcels, that they could move to. And for whatever reason, there was an initial agreement to that. And then indications are that they reneged on that initial agreement. Why won't they just move somewhere else where there's like better parking and other options available to them, right on the waterfront as well?
Well, I mean, how I see it is that's besides the point. Here's how I look at that. Let's say, for instance, Pedro St. James, a historical site, part of our culture, part of our heritage. If a previous landowner, because I do believe that that land was owned by the Edens at one point, if the Edens had said, listen, you can move this activity to a different piece of land, whether we would have been okay with that. And the site itself has a historical component and a cultural component. If we are willing to allow that to happen, that same precedent and viewpoint will be used in other circumstances when this challenge comes up again. So I think it's more than just the fishermen. And if you go around it in that way, I'm worried that it will set a precedent that will not be supportive of protecting our culture and our heritage. Sorry, my eyes.
And yeah, that's okay. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to keep a very close eye on this. And as soon as the decision drops, we will certainly advise the public of what the courts have decided. Really, I think from the court's perspective, this comes down to what the current legislation says in relation to compulsory acquisition and what instances that can be used, and the right to private property owners being able to keep their land. And so there's a legitimate concern there in relation to that. So those are the two interests that the courts will be trying to, balance, if you will. It's going to be a balancing act for them. And we'll see which of the two comes out the winner in the end.
Well, Sandra, I think it's important before I leave to calm the nerves of those persons who worry about that. It's a genuine worry. But I think the threshold of compulsory acquisition by any government is going to have to be a very, very high one. You're going to have to prove all the elements associated with public interest, the cultural norms, the historical time period upon which the property has been used for whatever activity. This is not just a piece of legislation or a request to just simply say, I like that piece of property, we're going to take it. That's not the bar that is being set or is being suggested. And that's why the court has to interpret it. And I'm certain that the ruling, when it comes back, if it comes back in favor of allowing the public, the compulsory acquisition, will state what the threshold is as per our constitutional requirements, because in section 15 does outline how you could do that. So it won't be just randomly the government can come take your land. So I want to calm people's nerves in that respect.
All right. Well, the courts will certainly decide what that threshold is going to be. Kenneth, Bryan, thank you so much. We want you to get to your committee meeting in Parliament on time, or as close to being on time as possible. So we appreciate you coming on the program this morning. All
right. God bless. Have a good day. And God bless your listeners and viewers.
Thank you, my dear. All righty. Bye-bye. All right, folks. I mean, this is, obviously going to be quite an interesting decision. We will keep an eye out for the decision and report back as soon as we can. Abby says the beach is split into two parcels and the bottom half is registered to a limited company, not Chris. Shaka Zulu says there's a significant element to the current usage. It has been in use this way for generations. Good morning, Dean Sinclair. Thank you so much for joining the program. Shaka Zulu says, I gotta say, I have to agree with the Honorable Kenneth Bryan on this one. And Liana says, good question to ask KB now, because it's supposed to be a local market vendor. What question was that? I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Miss Anita says, did the government buy land just right next door to that area for some type of cultural heritage development? Oh, Lord, they need to stop developing on the beach, first of all, and just leave it alone. Because as we can see, when Mother Nature is ready, she's going to take it back anyway. Johan says, KB is now a King's Counsel and legally trained, or what? Hashtag serious question. Oh, Lord, have mercy. All right. Oh, my gosh, sorry. So, yeah. I mean, I think there's been a number of things. Oh, I had a little graph here that I had did as well in relation to, right. So this is kind of what is going on. So government says that they've been trying to buy the land. Johnson has said he's offered alternative land rent-free and offered to put Dora's Beach into public trust. Government still chose compulsory acquisition to try to go that route. The heritage versus development question, there is an implicit suggestion that without compulsory acquisition, the land is at risk of development or loss. That's what Mr. Bryan said in his video. Johnson has publicly stated that there'll be no commercial development plan. There's no commercial development plan, and a desire to enhance the public access, making it almost like a beachfront park, ramps, seating, and remove concrete that is there. And then we have the historic use, implies that the fish market, as is, has operated well over 60 years. On the other side of the argument, Johnson and his team say that satellite images show current tented markets date back to about 2008, 2009. And though shoreline fish cleaning is older than that. So they're saying that, no, that is not what you see there now is not how it's been for the 50 years. And so they, you know, and I think the reason that they need to do something about this is if they continue to allow the fishermen to sit there and carry out this activity, which is commercial activity, to be fair, it is commercial activity, what they're doing. They do, Mr. Johnson does run the risk of, he does run the risk of actually allowing this format with the tents and the tables and all that kind of stuff for them at some point to be able to claim compulsory acquisition. And that's not what he wants to do. He does not want his property to be used for that. It's his property. So it's a sad situation. We've been out there before. We have interviewed the fishermen. We've done that, I think, back in 2020. We spoke with them. And, you know, we understand their desire to have, you know, a location where they can sit down there and clean their fish and sell their fish. But Mr. Johnson is saying not on his property. Oh, you couldn't comment earlier, Dean? I don't know what happened. Carrie says, exactly, it is a hazard. Whitehall Bay was supposed to aid the fishermen. I support Mr. Chris Johnson. He's got my vote every day, says Carrie. Live Happy says, stop sound the beach. I just said that. I did not know that you could sell Iron Shore. What a mess. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the property, right? Where did the name Dora Beach come from, says Shaka Zulu? It has always been known as Dora Bay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kim and Brack says, exactly. He can get sued if shit goes down on his property. You know, and that is also, to be fair to Mr. Johnson, let's be fair here. When it comes to liability, if you are allowing people to utilize your property and anything happens, heaven forbid, when these fishermen cuts off a limb or whatever, or accidentally cuts a tourist hand off, you know, you just never know. I mean, I'm not saying that that's likely to happen, but it's not impossible. It then means that the landowner is potentially at risk and for litigation. And so On the one hand, he could just be trying to protect himself. Locust Honey on Instagram said, "Is this live or pre-recorded?" No, we're live in the mornings. Yet Caymanians has no backbone, no unity. They go on to say, "You cannot protect against MPs that bring underage girls in their homes. Yet cannot protect against MPs that bring underage girls in their homes." I don't know who he's referring to. Don't know about bringing them in the homes, but we know some that have a history. Not ready for that topic. LOL losers, says Locust Honey. Isn't Kenneth Bryan the same one who wanted a cruise birthing port in town, yet someone turning around that wanted to get rid of the fishing market? Yeah, I mean, he says that, okay, he's dropped that argument now, and because the people have voted on it. What a hot mess. All right, so this is before the courts. We will clearly be waiting on the decision to drop, and when it does, we will certainly notify the public of what that decision is. So, yeah. Let me see here now. You know what else is very interesting? The fact that no government department has made any effort to oppose or even make in-person representations at any of the 5 planning hearings, despite the invitation. Those are the hearings where Chris was seeking permission to turn it into a park for the public. So you do kind of question how interested in this matter really is the government if they never participated in 5, not 1, 2, 3, 4, but 5 hearings with planning. And they were invited to do so with his plans to turn it into park for the public. And government is acquiring 2 parcels of land. So explanation by CIG as to why they need the other parcel. So some questions there for sure. And someone said, or something worse, a killing or something. This other person says, but Sandy, KB's talking about using the land for fishermen, but last year they were talking about a port. Wait, apologies. Right beside it, and he thinks that little piece of land would last when those big cruise ships kicking up the big waves and silt, etc. Dora Bay is a name, we knew it by then. Where Casanovas is going, West Bay, we called Cardinal Beach. Lord, I pray we get back. Okay. And for everyone that supported or supports him, they too need to place in a barrel and rolled off of Everest. Oh no, that's not about Kenneth Bryan. That's about Donald Trump. There's a comment that came in about Trump. All right, folks, if you have lost a hat, someone has found it. This hat fell off of someone's boat/truck while they were trailing their fish boat going north, just past Macabuca. Uh-oh. Why is my water coming out of this? It happened yesterday at around 2:40 p.m. So if you lost one of those kind of camouflage looking hats, someone has found it. I'm going to post it on social media. And, in this day and age, child, we can't be affording to lose nothing because everything is costing us money. So if you'd like your hat back, there it is. We'll post it up. And you can get reunited with your hat. All right. Keep you posted on that front. Okay. All right. That's all she wrote, honey chow. Okay. Macabuca. Macabuca, that's West Bay, right? Okay, so we will post that up for whoever this hat belongs to. YouTuber says exactly. There's also a liability issue. Ms. Brenda says members of the government don't understand these meetings. They're represented by the AG. Well, this person didn't say members of the government. They said none of their representatives, which I'm assuming would also include the Attorney General. No government department made any effort to oppose or make in-person representations. So I'm assuming that includes the Attorney General as well. All right, folks. Well, like I said, we'll keep you all updated. We thought back in 2020 that this matter was settled. Here we are going into 5 years later, and it still isn't settled. So I'm hoping this will now be the settlement of it. All right, I guess. All right, folks. UK passports. Brenda says, please read my comment correctly. What wasn't correct about it? You said members of the government don't attend these meetings. They're represented by the AG. I fully understand that, but the person who sent in the comment about government said no one was there, which includes, I'll verify with them, but I know that they mean not even the AG. They said no government representative was there at all, which would include the AG at these planning meetings. And normally it's not the Attorney General that would be at the planning meetings. It would actually be someone probably within the Ministry of Planning that would have been there asking questions or making comments or whatever. They've had 5 planning meetings, and they were invited to attend or to send a representative, and no one seemed concerned from a governmental perspective to attend at all. Someone says, Sandy, these men been out there for many years and this is how they live. Come on now, it's more than history. The tourists themselves goes there to watch cleaning of fish, and some of them that vacation go there to get fresh fish. What's next? Them man can't get other jobs and this is all they know. Well, no one is saying that they can't fish. So let's be clear about that. No one is saying that. And in fact, Mr. Johnson has offered them another parcel at no charge. And they initially said yes, and then they changed their mind. He's just saying that you're not going to do it there. Let's see what the courts decide. I have a sneaky suspicion that the courts are actually going to find in his favor. Knowing how the courts protect certain rights of the individual over the government, I do think that the courts are not likely to allow compulsory acquisition to be the way that they try to get this. So let's talk a little bit about what compulsory acquisition is. So under the Cayman Islands law, compulsory acquisition is used in 2 main contexts. Number 1, compulsory acquisition of shares under Section 88 of the Companies Act, squeeze out after a takeover offer, for example. And number 2, compulsory acquisition of land under the Land Acquisition Act 1995 revision. The elements differ depending on which of it that we're talking about. Of course, we're talking about land acquisition. So for compulsory acquisition of land by the state, the core elements that have to be met is number 1, a statutory public purpose. So the government and cabinet must be of the opinion that the land is required for a public purpose authorized by the Land Acquisition Act. Number 2, compliance with the Act's procedural steps, which are outlined, for example, a preliminary notification that the land is likely to be needed, surveys, then a declaration that the land is required for a public purpose and that it is to be acquired. So it doesn't say anything about culture and heritage purposes. It says a public purpose. And in terms of what a public purpose is defined as, I think that will be interesting, and no doubt the courts will be clarifying what a public purpose is as well. So we see it often used, for example, for roads, to put in road infrastructure. That is clearly a public purpose, but allowing fishermen who are carrying out a commercial exercise to sit there and do it, the courts may not agree that that is for a public purpose at all. So then you have service and or publication of the relevant notices to persons who have interest in the land. And then statutory compensation framework. The Act requires assessment and payment of compensation and principles such as market value, my apologies, at the relevant date, regardless of increase and decrease in value caused solely by the scheme, and allowance for damage or severance where part only is required. All right, so then you have observance of the Act's claims and objections machinery. So for example, lodging claims, possible reference of disputes to the court, and with the registrar ultimately recording the compulsory acquisition in the land register. So that's kind of the process of how it works. And there is no single, in the Cayman Islands, there's no single closed list definition of what public purpose means, but the courts and legislation use it in a fairly consistent way. In general, a public purpose is one that is genuinely for the benefit of the community or a discernible section of it as a whole, rather than for the private advantage of a particular person or small group. Typically, features of a public purpose, especially in compulsory acquisition, include authorized by statute and tied to government function, for example, roads, schools, hospitals, utilities, public safety, environmental protection, and other infrastructure and services used by the public at large. The benefit is public in character. So the project serves the community needs or welfare, not just a private commercial gain, even if a private entity helps deliver it. For example, a public road built and operated under a PPP model is usually still seen as public purpose. That there's a rational good faith connection between the stated purpose and acquisition of, stated purpose and the acquisition or action. Government cannot label something public purpose as a mere pretext to confer a private benefit, especially where rights like property rights are being overtaken. So we'll see how they define that public purpose, because that is really, I think, going to most likely be an important factor in this decision as well. All right, one person from one of the environmental groups had the following to say. Let me just show you guys this one. They said a better approach would be a preservation trust and the landowner, my apologies, and the National Trust to protect the beach for the people versus a land grab acquisition by the government at a vast cost, who have been shown to be as fickle with their land preservation as the flip-flopping that goes on up in Parliament. So let's just digest what this person is actually saying. This person makes the point that by doing it this way with compulsory acquisition, the government then owns the land, and that does not give us any degree of comfort in terms of what will happen with this land. And so what they should do is instead, they should put it in a preservation trust, which I think that's what the person wants to do. I know they said they want to preserve it in some sort of a trust, but this person is saying, yes, that would be the better approach with the landowner and the National Trust, which would then protect the beach for the people, as opposed to government saying, oh, it's just our land. And then future governments can do whatever they want with it. So, yeah. Debbie says, in regards to Brenda's comments, attend was the word used by her. You actually said understand. Oh, my apologies. Nothing to do with the AG. What's his reasons for not wanting them there now, but is offering an alternative location if he's planning to submit plans for development? I hope that the planning department will reject it. So again, as we said earlier, he has said that he has no intentions of developing this for any commercial use at all. He is going to, in fact, what he says he's doing is he's actually preserving it because concrete has been poured there and it's his land and he needs to get in there and clear out the concrete. And he intends to use it as an area that all people can access, not just a few select people such as the fishermen. So he wants to restore the beach and give people more of like a beach and relaxation area. And he wants to make it into a beach park, basically, where everyone can have access to it. Okay, so there we have it. We'll keep you guys updated on this as it develops. The courts, I think the arguments are done in court. It's just a matter now for the court to come back with a decision, which would probably be a couple weeks, maybe up to a month's time, because sometimes a judge will take a while to put their thoughts together. So as soon as the decision drops, we will be informing the public of this. Have a beautiful day, folks. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.